Welcome to the Freak Show. Here are my favorite fan theories for the crossover for Season 8 of American Horror Story. Mind you, the theme was released when this video came out, so a couple of them do include the apocalypse theory. All right, first one that we're going to start out with is by Uncover the News, when they say, how about Kathy Bates plays a Trump-like Delphi Trust member that claims to be related to Delphine, that runs for government on witches should be rounded up and asks for an ICE version of a witch hunting force. LA becomes a sanctuary city for witches. Okay, so I have to say that I love this idea, and it's not because of the Trump thing. No, I just love the Delphi Trust member in there because they were the witch hunters. And remember, supposedly the witch hunters were destroyed in Coven. So that would be great to see them continuing and using sort of real American Horror Stories in the current season. So I just thought that one was fantastic. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next one is from B. Devlin. They say, hi, Mary. I'm not able to comment on the Season 8 live stream, but they wanted to remind me about their husband's theory about Season 8 focusing on a modern-day Salem witch trial. I thought this was a fantastic idea, and I do remember this theory. They commented this during a live stream, and I told them to put it into the comments after it processed because I loved it so much. I do like an idea of a modern Salem witch trial. And in fact, I kind of wish that that's what Season 8 would have been titled, was just Salem. But I love Apocalypse, and I love this idea, and I think this would be a great one that they could run with. All right, we have Dylan J7. They say, I know this is far-fetched, but the color red symbolizes so many things. Fire and blood, energy and life force, violence and anger, and its powerful associations with the past. I simply went on Google and typed red symbolisms, and I got these answers. This season could be about so many things, the ghosts, the witches, and everything in between. The theories are limitless. And again, this was before the theme was announced, but I loved it so much about the red symbolisms here. I thought it was fantastic, especially with the violence and anger, energy and life force with the witches. So it was just another theory that, once again, I had to include. This theory comes from James Sheridan when he says, I have a feeling this season will have tons of flashbacks, especially really far back in time, maybe even breaking a record in AHS history, only because I feel Ryan will want to further explain of how and when they got the witchcraft powers. I agree with that one completely. I think that this season is going to break the record as far as flashbacks. Therefore, I had to include it into the best fan theories. I think Season 8 Apocalypse is definitely going to include a lot of flashbacks. So I just had to include this one in the theories. All right, moving on to the next one by Dylan Hickman when he says, my theory is that Michael will start the end of times and the witches will start to notice and travel to LA. Now, this was an idea before the theme came out, so I loved it so much that I included it in my fan crossover theories, obviously, video, but who knew that Dylan would kind of predict the apocalypse theme? Because I do think that this more than likely will be the theme for Season 8. What do you guys think of Dylan's theory? Let us know in the comments. This one's a little bit of a longer one, so let's kind of take it from here. It's a great one by Edgar. And Edgar was one of the gentlemen who alerted, well, excuse me, he was the only one who alerted me to the live stream link to the American Horror Story theme release. So I wanted to include it in here as a huge thank you to him. Now, his plot is that witches from the Coven in the near future will feel the presence of another eternal human being. Flashed presently to the Coven, Now, flashback, to the Coven. Misty Day had the ability to sense death. This can be proved when she found the dead crocodiles and also the burned myrtle snow. Now, taking this into consideration, one of the future witches might have her ability of resurrection, like it says right there, just like she did, but now we can see, just like she did, but now she can sense immortality. She might be able to find this eternal child from season 1. Keep in mind Cordelia's map when she's tracking down witches. She might have a pinpoint in LA where season 1 takes place, meaning there's witches there too and all over the world. Side note, I were willing to bet there's a ton of witches in LA. Tate and Vivian's son from season 1 was born half human, half ghost. Billy Dean Howard tells Constance there's an eternal child that will bring forth the end of times, the apocalypse. The season might start off with the flashback to Tate's son growing up, maybe killing people and perhaps witches. Keep in mind that Mr. March is a ghost, and that was able to kill Queenie even though she's a human voodoo doll. So Tate's son can kill mortals, immortals, ghosts, and other entities. At least that's what he thinks until, plot twist, aliens arrive. This could be a possibility since season 2 had aliens, and if not aliens, maybe another entity, perhaps a demon from his past. As a baby, he was probably overlooked by a demon alien or demon/alien entity that sensed his arrival to this earth. Constant continues to take care of the child until he sliced her throat and died. That's more probably likely, guys. I'm really so sad to say it, but they have not announced Jessica Lange. So I'm very sad to think that this is probably likely of what's going to happen to Constance, is that, Michael's going to kill her. So Michael grows up in an orphanage with kids his age and builds a close relationship with another boy. This is where he realizes for the first time he might be gay. Growing up, he has a fetish for killing gay men as he works part-time as a stylist at a beauty salon. Not until Billy Dean Howard shows not until Billy Dean Howard shows up to confront him about his killing fetish. Flashback to her childhood. She grew up in a home of gifted women like her, perhaps a coven. She remembers being bullied from able to talk with the dead, and she also had surrounded herself with the white spirit light that protects her from malevolent and dark spirits, making her leave her sisters. Perhaps this will connect them both. Edgar also says that he's not exactly sure how the end of the world will connect the coven and the murder house. Maybe the Bible will come into play this season with the idea of immortality, death, demons, and malevolent forces. I thought this was just such a fantastic, detailed theory that I just absolutely had to include it. I thought it was fantastic, especially like including Billy Dean Howard and, how Michael has definitely grown up in an orphanage. And a lot of people seem to think that Joan Collins is going to be the hairdresser that Constance is going to leave Michael to. Which I don't think Constance would leave Michael to anybody. I don't think she would want to plague that poor child on anybody. I think that is a fantastic, though, idea that he would go to an orphanage. And then Billy Dean Howard kind of comes up to confront him. So that would be fantastic for Michael to be like a Jeffrey Dahmer character. Because that's a true life American Horror Story guy. And I know that I think he was in Devil's Night in Hotel. I don't exactly remember if Dahmer was there. I think he was. But still, you know how Ryan has a fetish with this stuff. So I thought that the theory was absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely had to include it into the video. SL says, I have a theory that Michael will be the main protagonist. Kind of like one of those magic school TV shows there will be an antagonist of great power. With Michael being the Antichrist, it will alert the witches to try either like trying to get rid of him or trying to take his power. I really like the idea of the second coven, so maybe it's like a race to see who will get to him first, and maybe the evil coven will try to keep him alive. Maybe even it's a whole new breed of witch created or drawn by his power. And he's kind of like a supreme for this cultish new coven. Maybe the second coven will seek refuge in the murder house, and when Cordelia comes to attack, the ghosts are like guards and kill them. So I thought that was a great one. I don't know about you guys, but when I read this theory out loud, because I usually read things out loud, it helps me picture them. I could picture this theory going on in my head, like explosions and death bodies everywhere, and it's just a huge apocalypse. So I loved this theory by SL and absolutely had to include it. Man, you guys are so fantastic. All of y'all have wonderful theories. Jalissa RD says, the kid who played Oz from Cult could play Michael, and that's why he was covered up in the pink. I thought that was fantastic of Jalissa to point out because remember, guys, there is a picture that Joan Rivers posted of her with the cast, and there is somebody specifically covered with hearts. And that is the video that Jalissa was commenting on. And I thought that was a fantastic idea that the little boy, Cooper, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but that he could be the little boy or he could be the little boy playing Michael and the person who's covered up in the picture. And I do have to say very quickly, aside from all these theories, guys, I know that so many of you now think that Evan Peters is going to play Michael Langdon, and I do understand that. It does seem very likely. But how? I do know that Michael Langdon does age a little faster, as we saw at the end of Murder House. He was clearly like age-wise a 3-year-old boy, but he looked like a 6-year-old. So it looks like maybe he ages possibly half as fast. So he's 9 years old right now, if in 2019, excuse me, not right now. But he's 9 years old, supposedly in October 2019. So he would actually be 18, not like a 25-year-old Evan Peters. And I'm so sorry, no offense, but it does look like Evan's character did gain a couple of pounds and stop working out, possibly for this character. So this just doesn't look like Michael Langdon to me. I'm so sorry. But yes, the white hair does. Absolutely, with the cute little ascot. And Evan is playing the little boy, who would be the father. Obviously, that's, great. But it just doesn't look like him. I'm so sorry. He seems too age progressed. So maybe you guys could let me know in the comments what your theories are on that. Okay, so Cooper Clock Music, Aaron Allen, and those who were there said this in the theories. I hope episode 5 has Stevie Nicks showing up with Misty Day and her frog after having left the classroom from hell and kicked some demon teacher ass. They show up in the middle of the fight between the two covens and just start twirling and spinning, causing hurricane-like winds that cause them all that knock them all on their asses. I just thought that was so cute because I love Stevie Nicks and Misty Day. Those were some of my favorite episodes of Coven, so I just thought it was so cute. I love the idea. So I had to include it, and I know that you guys out there are big, fans like that too. So again, it was absolutely adorable. Had to include it. Okay, this next theory is from Daniel Rogers. It's a little long, so stick with me. I got 2 long ones, and this is the last one. Daniel says, okay, so here's my theory for AHS season 8. This is with the apocalypse. He said, I think the Coven will be moved to LA. I think that the crossover connection will really start when they move into Murder House. With the Coven living in the Murder House, that will keep up the image of the house being enough to house all of these witches. Also, that would create the opening to allow all of these past Murder House characters to have their time in the cameo spotlight. Like the Love Boat quote that, as stated by Ryan Murphy. This is why I thought the theory video was so great, because things like this connect into it. It's just so great. Also, since Hotel is set in LA as well, that would allow for Easter eggs too. Maybe even a scene showing when Queenie goes to the Hotel Cortez to be on the game show. With all of the witches in such a supernatural ridden location, such as the Murder House, then that would allow for possible theory that these young clueless witches, such as Billy Lord, would break and release the bondage spell that the Roanoke witch Scathach originally created, which in turn would give backstory to why and how her bondage spell is placed on all of these supernatural prone locations, which is what Ryan Murphy stated would be addressed in future plots, such as the Hotel Cortez and the Murder House. And again, guys, a side note, I thought this was really great because Ryan did state that he would address this in future plots. So again, this is why I really loved this theory, because it also addressed this as well. Because I want to know why these spirits are bound to these certain locations. And I know you guys do. So after that, the ghosts will be released and the dead witches might come back, such as Madison Montgomery, and all hell would break loose, along with the Antichrist child Michael having a connection. And for once in AHS, we might finally see how the good guys don't win the battle. That's another reason why I like this theory, because if I were writing this, I wouldn't have the good guys win. And Michael will unleash hell on Earth, leaving a perfect cliffhanger for season 9, which would be amazing finale for this series. Typing up all of these loose ends and finally giving fans a universal connection to all of these past seasons. Also, I believe that Casey's Reddit theory that he found discussing that Leslie Grossman will play Madison's mother will allow for more backstory into the family line, since Madison is a descendant of the original constructors of the murder house, the Montgomerys. And with Emma Roberts confirming her return, and if the coven does move into the murder house, and if the new witches do break the bondage spell and Madison returns, then with her being in place where her lineage began, then that could allow for some very dramatic and intense scenes for her character. I'm telling you guys, Daniel should be a writer too for AHS. Also, I think that this season will have a lot of deaths of some fan favorite characters like Billy Dean, Zoe, and maybe even Cordelia, all possibly dying in their attempt to stop Michael and his plan of destruction. So, oh my gosh, I really do think that this is a really great theory. It's like he says, you know, there's so much drama, sadness, death, gore, and true and chilling horror with information that supports past storylines. And oh my God, yeah, I really thought that this one was phenomenal. Like I said, I know it was a little long, but that was why I included it, because it was fantastic. Black Magic said, I love your channel and your AHS theories, and I also have a theory. Remember at the end of Coven when the new witches were coming in and Zoe asked Cordelia, how are we going to house all these girls? And Cordelia said, we'll buy more houses if we have to. Well, what if the murder house is the second house that the Academy buys to hold the new witches? I have to say that I absolutely love this theory. Now, at first, I didn't think it could be possible until some of you pointed out that the interior shots of Murder House for season 1 were mostly shot like on a set. They weren't shot inside the actual house. So that led me to believe, oh my God, they could totally do shots of Murder House this year. Because remember, my thought was always that they couldn't shoot at Murder House because the new owners, they hate the fact that the house is a Hollywood icon. So I sincerely doubt they would consent to American Horror Story filming there. But now that I know that most of it was on a set, they can definitely build that. And this would be a fantastic theory to actually happen. And it does seem like something that Ryan would do. So I had to include Black Magic's theory. All right, let's move on to... this is going to be one of the last theories here by Shaylee Fiske. Shaylee says this about the Apocalypse poster, and I thought it was fantabuloso, so I absolutely had to include it in this fan theory video. So Shaylee says the hand is probably one of the witches that was burned at the stake. And I had to include this again in the theory video because I thought that was fantastic. And I had never thought of that before. And it is like a black sort of burnt looking sort of like hand. And I thought that was fantastic and had to include it. Now, as y'all know, I love your theories and your ideas. So make sure that you leave them below and I'll probably reply to you. Now, what did you think of these fan theories? And make sure you leave a like if you liked the video. New theory videos to come, such as the 7 Degrees of Sarah Paulson and much more. So subscribe so you don't miss them. Patrons get my videos much earlier, as well as other exclusive rewards, and it's their generosity that pays for the prizes I give away. So become a patron by clicking on the link in the description. Join the Freaks of AHS on Facebook and review all of the seasons of American Horror Story with me and my admins. Link to the group is in the description. Thank you all so much for your love and support. Thanks for watching, and beware of sexy scathach.